Starting off at the quarterback position with Trevor Lawrence. He had put up 17 plus points in 3 straight games before the Jaguars bye week, and he's got a great matchup this week against the Raiders. So if you need quarterback help, there's 4 teams on a bye. Pick up and start Trevor Lawrence. You can also pick up CJ Stroud, who had a huge game last week against the Niners, over 21 fantasy points. He's had 18 plus points in 3 of his last 4 games, and last week he did it without Nico Collins. I don't love the matchup against Denver this week, but Stroud still needs to be owned in most fantasy leagues. And the biggest pickup of the week will be Tyrone Tracy. The Giants lost Cam Scatterbo to a really gruesome ankle injury last week, which means Tracy Jr. is going to end up being the starter for the Giants. You could see some Devin Singletary in there as well, but remember, Tracy was pretty good as a rookie, and now he's going to have RB2 flex value moving forward as the lead running back for the Giants. I also like Tajay Spears. Now, he hasn't taken over the top spot on the depth chart from Tony Pollard just yet in Tennessee, but he's looked like the better running back. 6.6 yards per rush last week, over 17 fantasy points. It's probably going to be a committee, but Spears is a guy that I would pick up even as a speculative ad. At wide receiver, let's go with Christian Watson. He returned to action last week. He looked good, 84 yards, had 4 catches in a win over the Steelers. And I get it, the Packers have a lot of wide receiver mouths to feed, and Jaden Reed is still hurt, but Watson should be owned in most leagues and could be started during the bye weeks. And here's an under-the-radar player, Jameer DK in Tennessee. Without Calvin Ridley, he has become the guy in the Titans wide receiver room. In fact, over the last couple of weeks, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, and over 33 fantasy points. So DK is suddenly, as a rookie, has some value from a fantasy standpoint. I also like Kayshon Boutte, and I've had him in this video several times before, but he's still not owned in enough leagues because he doesn't get a lot of targets, but when he does get targeted, he certainly produces. Last week, he had a touchdown and over 16 fantasy points. He's had 13 plus points in 3 straight games. He's got Atlanta up next on the schedule. And then finally, Troy Franklin, who was one of my favorite streamers last week. Why? Well, he played against the Dallas Cowboys, and he ended up having a huge fantasy game. And he is the number 2 option in Denver's offense behind Courtland Sutton. And while the matchup this week against the Texans is not great, Franklin can be a bye week replacement like he was last week. I'd pick him up for week 9.